Want to be happier? Turn off your TV. Just kidding. Hello and welcome. I'm Anne, a holistic health coach, and this is Veggie Magnifique, your go-to for holistic wellness and healthy and happy vegan lifestyle. And today we are talking about happiness. We're talking about how to be happier. So why are we talking about this on Veggie Magnifique? Well, when I was studying holistic nutrition, we learned about the importance of primary food and secondary food. That's what they called it in my nutrition studies. And primary food is that which nourishes you as a human that isn't what you eat. So your relationships, your job, your sleep, your exercise, your personal fulfillment. And then secondary food is the food you actually eat, right? And so primary food is very important in terms of holistic health. So I wanted to talk about it a little bit today. Now, if you're human, and I assume you are, you might struggle from time to time with happiness, with being happy. You might feel that it's fleeting or elusive. And that's normal. That's very normal, especially nowadays with all the fear bombarding us at every turn. And the last couple months for me have been somewhat challenging in terms of my happiness, if I'm being honest. And so what I generally do when I have a challenge is I try to learn about it. I try to do research on how I can improve the situation. So what I've been doing is I've been listening to a lot of audiobooks, which I always do, but precisely for happiness. And I've learned about a lot of effective strategies. So I wanted to share those today with you. So first I'm going to draw from Tal Ben-Shahar's book, which is called Happier. I recently listened to this in my car on my way to work and on the way back. And this fantastic book draws on the fascinating field of positive psychology. One of Tal's big statements in the book is, the ultimate currency for a human being is happiness. I'll say that again. The ultimate currency for a human being is happiness. So let's talk about the 4 archetypes that Tal shares in his book. This is very illustrative. So Tal uses the analogy of a hamburger. So obviously I'm going to use a vegan burger to illustrate this, but it's quite interesting. So let's stick with the burger analogy. So there are 4 types. The first is the hedonist. So the hedonist seeks pleasure and avoids pain. So he would have a burger that would be extremely rich and delicious, but that wouldn't support his future goals. So pleasure in the present, but future detriment. So that's the hedonism archetype. The second archetype is the rat racer. So the rat racer forgoes pleasure in the moment for future benefits. So in terms of the analogy, he would be having a burger that would be not tasty, but that would be very healthy. So it supports his future goals, but it doesn't support his pleasure in the present. The third archetype is the nihilist, right? So nihilism, which means there's no present benefit and there's no future benefit and you have no lust for life. So then your burger would be not tasty at all and also not healthy. And the fourth archetype is obviously the ideal, which is the happiness archetype. So you have pleasure in the present and you also have future benefit. So the question we have to ask ourselves is, how can we be happy now but also happy in the future? And just really quick, I have an exercise for you to kind of dig into this idea. So make a list of activities that bring you pleasure in the present, but that will also bring you pleasure in the future. So for example, you might enjoy cooking, so you can cook healthy foods. It's fun to do now, and let's say they're delicious, so it's enjoyable, but then they support your health because they're healthy. Or spending time with your best friend, right? Miss you, Chloe. You have pleasure in the present because you enjoy spending time with your friend, but then at the same time, you're fostering relationships, which then brings future happiness. So spending time with your children is another example, or playing a sport that you really love that supports your fitness goals, but that you also really enjoy doing. Another example is reading personal development books, right? So if you enjoy reading and then you apply them for future benefit. So all of these activities are kind of feel-goody, but they also support future feeling good. So after you've made this list of these kinds of activities, schedule them, put them in your agenda and say, okay, next Friday, I'm going to hang out with Susie, or tomorrow I'm going to spend extra time with my children, or whatever the case may be. Definitely put it into the planner. Otherwise, it just remains a good intention. Remember, even those small changes you make to your daily life make a huge difference. Spritzer. So let's talk about how you spend your days. How you spend your days and how you spend your time is a crucial factor in your happiness. So Tal explains 3 cases of the career, right? So your job. So you have a job, you have a career, and you have a calling or a mission. So the job is obviously something you do for money. You don't necessarily want to do it. You look forward to the weekend and you look forward to vacation. So a job is not that fulfilling. So a career is your field. Usually you've been trained in it, you've studied it, you're climbing the ladder in this career. You get the idea. And then the third is a calling, a mission. It's something that doesn't feel like work. It's something that you love doing and the hours can pass without you even noticing it. Your calling gives you meaning and purpose and real enjoyment and meaning to your life. So the idea is to strive to spend the most time on your calling. So let me just give you a personal example. So I have a lot of bridge jobs right now, right? So that falls into the job category. Although, I enjoy certain aspects of them, they aren't my career, nor are they my calling, right? So my career, I've been a voiceover artist for most of my life, and I do enjoy it actually. I really do enjoy doing voiceover. Though it is not exactly my calling, my mission, like Veggie Magnifique is, right? So I feel a real sense of purpose with Veggie Magnifique because what I'm doing really, really matters, and it's for a very noble cause, I feel, right? Whereas sometimes I'll do voiceovers for a brand that I don't necessarily wear or support or whatever, and so there's a disconnect there. So of course in my life, I'm striving to spend more and more time on Veggie Magnifique, on these activities that feel important and give my life meaning and purpose and hopefully affect the world beneficially. So the question is then here, how can you migrate towards spending more time on your calling and less on jobbing, and or how can you bring purpose into what you do, whether that's a job, a career, or a calling? How can you find meaning and purpose? Like say for example, you have a job that you can't exactly leave right now for financial or whatever reasons. How can you find more meaning in that whilst perhaps working toward spending more time on your calling, toward finding more purpose in your day-to-day life and activities? So the next thing I want to discuss is obviously gratitude. Gratitude is the magic sauce. It might sound trite to you, but it's true. So we have to talk about gratitude here. All the positive psychology folks and all the self-help book writers, everyone across the board, it's a recurrent theme. Gratitude is the magic sauce. So how can you implement more gratitude into your life? Well, a great practice is keeping a gratitude journal. So Mimi Icon and Alex Icon and UJ Ramdas created a great product called the 5-Minute Journal. You can definitely check that out. I will link it below. It gives you prompts for morning gratitude and evening gratitude, or you can just grab any old journal and start to write things that you're grateful for on a daily basis. Now, another practice you could do is mental gratitude. You could do a gratitude meditation. You really have to find what works for you, but the key here is to do it on a daily basis. Now, what does gratitude do for your happiness? Well, a lot, actually. I'm reminded of this great quote by Epicurus. Do not spoil what you have by desiring what you have not. Remember that what you now have was once among the things you only hoped for. So yes, keep dreaming, keep striving, keep working toward that future that you dream of, but find ways to be grateful in the now for what you have, because that's going to bring more things to be grateful for which to be grateful. So another resource I want to talk about on the subject of happiness is the documentary, I think it came out in 2012, called Happy, and it's got this little smiley face on the cover, and I will link it below. So I've watched this movie several times. There are so many wonderful salient points about how to find happiness in your daily life, and I'd like to share some of these with you. So number one is to find your flow, to find what puts you in your element that makes you forget space and time, something that you enjoy doing, right? So we're seeing a recurring theme here with the Happier book. Secondly is to serve others. When you spend time helping others or adding value to other people's lives, it makes you feel a deep sense of purpose and makes your life more meaningful, and hence happier. Next is to pursue intrinsic goals instead of extrinsic goals. So what does that mean? Well, extrinsic goals are like status and money and cars and boats and things that like show that you're, legit. Whereas intrinsic goals are, say, fostering relationships, working on yourself, personal growth. So a personal anecdote here, I used to live in LA, I lived there for around a decade, and I was working on my career. Now, LA was not the right shoe that fit for me, but it took me a while to figure that out. And I was definitely a rat racer, and I, at the time, unbeknownst to me, was seeking a lot of extrinsic goals. So I was continually on this hamster wheel of discontent. And at one point, I finally realized that this sucked and there had to be more to life. And then I, ended up moving to Paris, which was probably one of the best decisions I ever made. But it's a great example of where I eschewed those extrinsic goals for my personal intrinsic goals, and that made a huge difference in my life and in my happiness. Next is finding a community. Community is extremely important. The Happy documentary talks all about it. It talks about the community they have in Okinawa. It talks about the community of this family in the South and how they eat together and how they spend time together and they got each other's backs. And it's a very poignant point here in that we think that it's all about us and we can go it alone, some of us, and maybe some of us feel like lone wolves, and that's cool. However, we are social creatures, I feel inherently, and most people who turn away from others have been hurt, but we really do want to be loved, and we really do want to be surrounded with people who love us and support us, and whom we can support as well. The next tip is spending time in nature. So spending time in nature is super big, and I'm sure you've heard about it, right? Shinrin Yoku, which is the Japanese art of forest bathing, which I made a video all about a long time ago, which I'll link. So one factor for us moving to New Hampshire is we wanted more nature, right? We were living in the center of Paris. There were parks, but it wasn't like we were bathing. Can you hear the birds? You know what I mean? We weren't bathing in the forest, right? In Paris. And now we have so much more exposure to greenery, so many more trees. And that is definitely helpful for my husband and me to feel a deeper sense of happiness and connection to the earth. And it's a whole thing. It's a whole science. Do some research on the powerful effects of spending time in nature and you'll see what I'm talking about. And the last point from the Happy documentary is a sense of purpose. Again, we're seeing this recurring in this topic. So the Okinawans, for example, they have a sense of purpose, so they live to be centenarians, right? So the great-grandparents who are like 100 are spending time with their grandchildren or great-grandchildren, and they're really a part of the family unit, and so that gives them a sense of purpose and something to live for. I think a lot of people don't live as long when they feel like their life is useless or what's the point? But in these tight-knit communities in, say, Okinawa, that's the case study, and then, Dan Buettner of the Blue Zones talks a lot about Okinawa. So these people live to be centenarians because they have these key elements in their lives that support their happiness and support their primary food. And one of those is a sense of purpose. They were talking about this husband and wife who were probably in their, mid to late 60s, and they had gardens, and every day they had something to do. They had to garden, they had to grow all these vegetables, and that was something that gave their life meaning. It was really important. And then also there was this community group for elder folk, and that was so cool. They spent time together, they played games, they did crafts. We're seeing these recurring traits again, right? Happiness is related to our social interactions, purpose, and all the other things that we just spoke about. But nowhere in my research have I found that happiness comes from watching the news endlessly. Just one of my findings. Take it for what you will. So there you have it. Those are my findings on how to be happier. I have found them very helpful. I hope that they're helpful for you. If you enjoyed this video, it always means so much when you like, and if you would like to subscribe, that would be wonderful. It is free. And if you click the notification bell, you will be notified of future content so you don't miss it. And I would love to hear from you guys. So let's talk in the comments below. Were these tips helpful for you? Do you have tactics on how to find happiness in your life? Please share them with me and also with other viewers. Being happy is an ongoing process. It's not like you figure it out and then you're happy forevermore. Life is filled with all sorts of experiences and ups and downs and seasons, and I don't pretend that you can just flick a switch and be happy forevermore. Amen. That'd be great, but life is inherently complex. So leave your suggestions down in the comments so that we can have further fodder for being happy. And if there's someone that you know that you feel would benefit from this information, I would be so grateful if you would share this video with them. And with that, I'm signing off. Thank you guys so much for tuning in. You all make me so happy, especially when you leave comments. So thank you guys so much in advance, and I will see you in the next video. Bye! Have you ever thought about studying holistic nutrition? Maybe it's been on your mind for a while? Well, as many of you know, I studied holistic nutrition at the Institute for Integrative Nutrition, also called IIN, and it totally changed my life, and it was also very integral in the creation of Veggie Magnifique. So some of the reasons I really love the program are, in the end, you end up working in an industry that's in line with your heart and your values, plus you can own your own business or side business. You also improve your health and well-being, and then
the health and well-being of your clients and also your family. And plus, you can work from anywhere, and the program, of course, can be done from anywhere in the world. But studying at IIN goes way deeper than just diet and nutrition, and that's actually why I really loved it. To learn more, you can check the referral link down in the description box, and that will also lead you to the best deal that they currently have on offer.